right. Hey, this is John Chen reporting live one more time from Venice, Florida. That's right. And this next guest, I don't know how I did this. I lucked out. I got a trifecta today, and I love this is how I'm going to end my day as with this gentleman. We've known each other a long time. We're both members of an organization up here in Seattle, but I was a fan. I was fanboying this gentleman a long time ago because he's an expert on innovation, creativity, and breakthrough thinking. He's also a 29 Emmy Award-winning, amazing person here, Hall of Fame keynoter who takes the mystery out of innovation for leaders and their teams worldwide. Oh, and that reminds me that I have a special intro for him that I set up. Before he comes on, let's just do this special intro and see if you know this part of Seattle's history. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the one and only Bill Stainton. Bill!
Yes, looking much older, much more beat up. Oh my goodness, that TV show took so much out of me, but it gave me so much also. Hey, John Chen, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm here in Florida, and Bill, let me just, I hate to do this.
That's why make me jealous. I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest where it's snowing today.
That's exactly where I was headed to. Right now, 76 and sunny here in Venice, Florida.
By the way, do I get sponsorship dollars for this?
Oh, yes, here, I'll give mine for Thermos. All right, Thermos.
Yeah. Oh, yours is chroma key now, but okay, there we go.
I know. Like I said,
right.
I'm not home in my studio. But, so Bill, wait, so this show, Almost Live, was one of my growing up in Seattle favorites. And so, Bill, wait, I heard you have a little behind the scenes stories about that opening segment, right, Bill?
Well, actually, that's a different opening than I thought. That's the opening that we did after my favorite opening.
Oh, shoot, I missed the favorite opening. Yes, and
that's all right. The music was the same. And plus, this opening had... the reason we had to change the opening was because I hired Joel McHale. Joel McHale, who now is starring in, oh God, he's got a new sitcom on Fox. It's on Thursday nights. He starred in Community.
Yeah.
He was my intern. And then I made him a full-time cast member, so we had to shoot a new opening. So that's why we had that opening, so that we could get Joel McHale in there, because he wasn't in the old opening and he was getting pissed off about that. Hey, come on, I'm in the cast. Why am I going to be in the opening? All right, we'll do a new opening.
Oh my gosh. Well, Bill, thank you again for joining me here. Bill and I are both members of the National Speakers Association Northwest chapter. And Bill, I can say this, right, Bill? But Bill is legendary.
Depends on where you're going with this.
That's right. He's legendary. He's got a Hall of Fame on the keynote speaker. And so, and as you're adept to see, he's got 29 of those little things behind him. But let's...
There are some now.
That's so amazing. Well, how could they be here, Bill?
By the way, this right here is what they give you for getting into this nationals to the Speakers Hall of Fame. And when I did a live stream with my sisters during the pandemic, they hadn't seen that yet. They said, "Oh, good, you got some of your Emmys up there. The rest of them are downstairs, and there's a bunch of broken ones in the garage." but my younger sister said, "And what's that ugly looking one? Is that a bowling trophy?" No, that's the pinnacle of my career. That is the highest possible thing you can get as a keynote speaker. That is the Hall of Fame. Oh, it looks like a bowling trophy. Yeah, okay. It does.
All right. Well, Bill, I know there's a few people who actually don't know who you are. So why don't you do
Oh,
us a
so
favor?
I've got family members who aren't sure.
I'm not sure who you are now at this moment, but
Yeah, there we go.
Bill, do me a favor, introduce yourself, who you are, and now, especially too, what are you up to, especially in 2023?
Oh, wow. Okay, so who I am, I was born much smaller than I am now. Actually in a little town called Lancaster, Pennsylvania. My backyard growing up was an Amish dairy farm. We were not Amish, but my backyard neighbors were. But no, my backstory is basically that for 15 years I produced the longest running, highest rated, and most award winning regional comedy TV show in the United States. You just saw the open for it. It's called Almost Live. We were also syndicated on Comedy Central for 2.5 years. So we had some kind of cool fan. Angelina Jolie was a fan. Tony Shalhoub was a fan. So people like that watched it nationally. But and that was on for 15 years. We were number one in our time slot for the last 10 years, every single week, even during reruns, like every 10 years in a row, number one in our time slot. So I started to get kind of cocky. I thought, okay, we got this made. I mean, the show's on the air for 15 years, winning slews of Emmys, loads of Emmys, all of us combined. Number one for 10 straight years. I started feeling pretty confident. So I bought a new house and a new car. And a month later, they canceled the show.
Oh no!
Yeah, so I panicked for a moment, and then we can talk about this more if you want, but basically ended up becoming a keynote speaker, which is what I do now. I speak, I consult. So I'm not just a speaker, but basically because of my background with the show, I kind of have some expertise when it comes to creativity and innovation and breakthrough thinking, because we had to do all those things every single week on demand, whether we felt like it or not. So now I work with organizations, corporations, teams that want to plug into their own sense of innovation and looking at their world differently, looking at their business in ways that they never have before. And a lot of times they don't know how to do that. But once they do, once they can look at it through almost like a different lens, all of a sudden they see, oh, new possibilities that they wouldn't have come up with before. So that's kind of what I'm doing now, both as a keynoter, as a consultant, as a whatever.
As a whatever, that's right. High paid whatever.
whatever. I should have stopped that sentence 3 words before, and I kept going and realized I don't. No, I finished my thought. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm a good guest.
You're one of the best, Bill. You know that, one of the best. You know, one of the pieces that comes around it, Bill, how did you get to that decision, that keynoter? I mean, because you could have stayed, quote unquote, in the industry. I mean, there's a lot of avenues, especially, it's amazing too how important communications skills have gotten now, especially in the last 3 years. But how did you choose keynoting and consulting out of all the things that you knew?
I wish I could have said it. I wish I could say that I just kind of, I just figured it out right away. I didn't. And I'll tell you why, John, because so when the show ended, I thought, okay, no, what am I going to do now? I did have another company, so I had some income coming in, but doing corporate training videos. But what I did for an embarrassing long time was I really defined my skill set really narrowly. And I think a lot of people do that. So I thought, okay, I can produce a comedy show and I can write jokes. Because in addition to writing for my own show, I'd written for HBO and Comedy Central and The Tonight Show and things like that.
Amazing.
But I thought those are my skill sets. Producing a comedy TV show, of which there were no others in the country outside of New York or LA, which I didn't want to go to either of those places. Or I could write jokes, and jokes, I mean, like Jay Leno at the time was paying $50 a joke. Well, you got to write a lot of jokes, and he has to buy a lot of them to make a living doing that. And so for a long time I thought, well, man, what am I going to do? And then I realized, wait a minute, Bill, for 15 years you produced this TV show. You've got a number of skill sets beyond just writing jokes and producing comedy. You've got some hugely valuable expertise in innovation. I mean, you've learned how to innovate on demand. And that's what a lot of organizations need right now. They need, because things change so rapidly. The last 2.5 years have taught us that. And it's happening. And Chat GPT, you think that's not going to change a lot of paradigms, things like that. And Chat GPT and its ilk. Companies need to be able to innovate like that on a dime. Well, I know how to do that because I had to do that for 15 years. In addition, I also have pretty unique expertise in leading a creative, innovative team because it's a different kind of leadership. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, but there are some specific skills that come into play when you're trying to lead a team of innovators, because it can be like herding cats, of course. So I realized, okay, those are skills that have universal application. I mean, there isn't any industry or organization on earth that doesn't want to or shouldn't want to be more innovative, to have that muscle, to have that tool in their tool belt. And that's what I can do, again, because we had to. Once I figured that out, then keynoting kind of became easy. It was easy to get booked initially anyhow in Seattle because I was a quote unquote celebrity in Seattle.
Personality, yeah.
Celebrity.
Well, let me ask about the creativity.
Wait, hang on. Let's talk about. I said celebrity. You immediately said, well, personality. Here's where it goes. There's star, celebrity, personality is way. Oh, he's a personality. So thanks for that, John. Hey, this has been fun, everybody. I got to go now.
Yeah, turn the camera off. Right.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, Bill. I didn't know the word was so loaded around that. One piece I am interested in here, the creativity in
face. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This will be
let it go, Bill. What? Center, happy place, and I'm back.
You're talking about creativity and innovation, and it is like herding cats. I was at Microsoft for a decade, and that is definitely right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and these cats are like not only smart, but then they're wicked. And that's, I think, one of the keys. I am teaching a class right now to a Saudi Arabian company about creativity and innovation. So I'm kind of curious of the things that you can share. What's something that is a top strategy or something that you can share around the creativity and innovation? And while you think about that, one of the pieces here too, Bill's been so kind. He actually gave me a special link, and there's a download inside of there, and that's really for you. And then it's Essential Team Innovation Starter Kit that he gave you, so you could use something inside of there, or you could again just give one of the tips that you think are most important with your clients for creativity and innovation.
Sure. Well, let's start at the beginning, because first of all, you and I both know, John, we both know people like this, who's just like, well, I'm not creative. You know, that's not me. Or that's not even my department. I work in legal. I work in human resources. I work in accounting. I mean,
accounting,
that's not, you know, we have a creative services department. We have a marketing department, whatever. But that's, so many people just think that's not for them. Like you're either born with it or you're not. And if you're not, you're never going to get it. And to be born with it, you have to be a genius, you know, genius level IQ. And your innovations have to be earth-shattering in order to count. And it's a lightning bolt that comes down from above, and it only strikes the gifted few. And if that ain't you, then end of conversation. All of that is BS. All of that is incorrect, and it stops people from even trying. That's the thing that's the most frustrating, because you and I can talk to organizations about creativity and innovation, but if they're already thinking, well, this isn't for me, then they'll sit there and maybe they'll be polite, maybe they won't, depending on the culture, but they've already, you know, they've already gone to a different place mentally because they figure, well, this is not for me. And it is for them. You know, people think it's only for the gifted few. We are all the gifted few. So here's what I learned. And I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this, John, because obviously You've got expertise in this arena also. Innovation, creativity, and by the way, those two words do not mean the same thing, but under a broad umbrella, we can talk about them kind of in the same breath. It's not about a lightning bolt that comes down and strikes people. You know, we think of this like eureka moment, and it only strikes the gifted few. Okay, we've already decided we're all the gifted few. It's not the lightning bolt. Innovation and creativity is really nothing more than connecting dots. Taking two or more things that are, there's myth number one, that it's all about the lightning bolt. It's not about the lightning bolt. It's about connecting dots. taking two or more things that already exist and putting them together in a way that nobody has before. That's what joke writing is all about also. You take like two or more different things and bring them together, and in joke writing, boom, that moment is called the punchline. In creativity, that moment is called the iPhone, or the internet, or the Tesla. You take the iPhone comes from the Macintosh computer. The Macintosh computer happens because a guy named Steve Jobs connected computers, which already existed, with calligraphy, because he happened to take a course in calligraphy from a Trappist monk named Robert Palladino in Reed College, just outside of Portland, Oregon. He happened to have that calligraphy dot in his collection. Most computer people did not.
Oh, wow.
Steve Jobs did. So he connected two things that already existed, computers and calligraphy, said, hey, can we make, we being him and Steve Wozniak, can we make a computer that does calligraphy? And so they did. It was called the Macintosh. And the Macintosh led to the creation of the Apple Corporation, the world's first $1 trillion corporation, which led to the creation eventually of this thing, which we all have. And let's face it, yes, it is our significant other. It is. It's the first thing we want to hold when we wake up in the morning. It's the last thing we let go of before we go to sleep at night. Truth be told, right?
And we panic when we lose
because
it.
Steve Jobs happened to take a course in calligraphy from a Trappist monk at Reed College outside of Portland, Oregon. He had that dot. It's about connecting the dots. Now, sometimes when you connect those dots, it might feel like a eureka lightning bolt moment, but it's really just because you'd like, oh, this is like that, or this can be connected with that, and boom, there we go. So
I can share your point here too around with it. That, and again, this is the myth, but the myth is it has to be earth shattering to count. This is something that you shared.
Yes.
And
Yes.
again, when I'm teaching this class, I looked up a bunch of examples too, Bill. So I appreciate you sharing things like, of course, iPhone is like in this category, but
Sure.
in the earth shattering, I went to school at UC Santa Barbara, right?
Mm-hmm.
And near there is the McDonald's that created the Egg McMuffin.
Oh, I think it was James Beard who called the Egg McMuffin a masterpiece. He called it Eggs Benedict for the masses.
And so again, this franchise owner, and so the company that I'm working with in Saudi Arabia is the largest dairy company, is where they started, and now they do lots of different kinds of food. So they actually make like 75% of the products in an Egg McMuffin, right? It's a muffin, it's an egg, it's a piece of Canadian bacon, and it's cheese.
A slice
Right?
of cheese.
That's 4 ingredients. The only thing I think they don't make is Canadian bacon. So
Yeah.
and I tell them all the time in the mindset, because that's the other part, Bill, is that the mindset. Like, you have to believe that you can actually create something like this, because as soon as you say,
Yes.
I'm not creative, it's over.
Right.
Right. And so this guy came around here and said they were trying to solve a problem. That's the next thing, is you use to solve a problem. He says, I want something for breakfast that's able to hold with a hand, that's easy to eat, and solves the breakfast problem. Because McDonald's were open for lunch, but they didn't yet really have a good breakfast product. And so this came around, and headquarters picked it up, and now this person who created the Egg McMuffin now gets a royalty still to this date for every Egg McMuffin ever sold.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
So if you're ever in Goleta, so I tell them the story too, and I said, each of you could have or still could create the Egg McMuffin for Saudi Arabia, because you make 3/4 of these products. So why don't you?
You want to know what one of my favorite ones is?
Hit me.
So you and I both spend a lot of time in hotels.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember in the old days, but in the old days, you go to a hotel and you get in the shower in the morning or whenever. You turn on the hot water, and I don't know what law of physics it is. Maybe it's Bernoulli principle or something, but you know where I'm going. The cold, clammy plastic shower curtain would all of a sudden instantly try and meld with you and become one with you and merge with you, right? Some of you watching this or listening to this know that experience. Well, for years that happens. Like, oh, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. But finally, one person that said, well, maybe I can do something about it. That's when it begins. When you see something, when you experience something, it's like, oh, this is really a nuisance, an irritant. And so this person, I don't know who it was, said, what if we just push the curtain rod out a little bit? What if we curve the curtain rod, the curved shower curtain rod. That's a wonderful innovation. So, and all it is, it's taking a rod and curving it so the shower curtain is further away from you. Solve the problem. Now, did this person have to have, a Leonardo da Vinci or an Einstein IQ to come up with that? Nope. Did this person have to have a degree in nuclear science or quantum physics to solve? Nope. All this person had to do was see a problem. And by the way, that's where most of us stop. We see a problem and we whine. And that's where most of us stop. This person, and what every innovator does, is they see a problem, they whine about it. So up until this point, they're exactly like you and me. But then they do one further thing. They ask a question. And the question is, how could this be better? That's it. That's all it is. We all have things that irritate us. We all, and some things are little and some things are big, which is why innovations come in all different sizes, little and big. Little irritations, little innovation. Big irritation, like, energy costs too much and it's ruining the planet. Okay, that's a big irritation, a big problem. It's going to take some big innovation for that. But not everyone is like that. The curved shower rod. It's just a matter of seeing a situation going, how can this be better? If you can just start doing that, your brain will start coming up with answers. Now, they may not be good answers at first, but that's not really the point. Because when it comes to innovation and creativity, and you know this, John, quality is a function of quantity. I forget who said it, but somebody said, and I've said it, so I'll just take credit for it now. But it was from somebody else. Said, the best way to come up with a great idea is to come up with a lot of ideas. And you're absolutely right. It's all about mindset and believing that you can do it. Well, could you have come up with a curved shower curtain? Of course you could have, but you never thought about it. You just put up with it. Yeah. Every single time it would happen, you just put up with it. Well, what are some other things that we all just put up with? Just think about something. What are the things that you put up with in your life that you're like, maybe it's every time you walk into your living room, you trip over, just like in the old Dick Van Dyke show, way back in the black and white, he tripped over the ottoman in the open. Well, in the last episode of the show, they moved the ottoman. That's an innovative, that's the mindset of an innovator. Oh, you know what? This really bugs me. You know what? Let's fix the problem. And that's all innovation is. It's fixing a problem, solving a problem.
I'm a big fan of failing faster, Bill, which is that over the last 3 years, I've gotten the experience of failing faster than anybody else.
Haven't we all?
But I did. It's so funny, too. The house that I'm staying at is a friend who retired who invited us here, and she has a curved shower rod. I've never actually. I don't think I've heard the story for this. So you say we put up with it, right? And so, Bill, obviously, that virtual meetings is one of the things I'm looking at. I would love to hear Bill's view of what are people putting up. What are people putting up with in virtual meetings that really just now needs a big, heavy shot of creativity and innovation in virtual meetings, Bill?
Let's see. That's an interesting question. I think people are putting up with, and look, maybe they can solve this, maybe they can't. I mean, somebody can. One of the irritants is people talking without unmuting themselves on Zoom. I mean, come on, it's been 3 years, people, but people still haven't figured that out. Yeah. Okay, so maybe there's a way around that. Maybe we can have a talk to unmute thing on Zoom, where as soon as you start talking, now that would be, there are certain situations where that would be terrible, but still, it's an irritation. So I'm not proposing solutions here. I'm saying that's an irritation. That's right. Things like internet dropping out. Okay, that certainly is a problem that we need to work with. Right now, I don't know if my lip sync is if I'm in sync here, because I'm going through a switcher here. So, but in some cases that can be an irritation. Another one is, and you actually demonstrated this inadvertently when you held up your thermos. But it also happens when exactly. So exactly. Green screen and chroma key or as Zoom calls it, virtual background. that technology has gotten so much better, but it still is weird when people move around a lot because that's a difficult thing for the computer to figure out.
And this is what I'm solving. So again, this room is just set
beautiful.
up in this way with nothing in it, and
You
so
know what? That's a really good point, because the idea of the virtual background, you and I both know, to do something like that, you used to have, a green screen, and a lot of people still do. If you want it really clean, you do need a green screen, and it would be expensive. And back in the old days, the green screen had to be lit completely flat, and it was
even that's hard.
That is hard. It was really difficult. Zoom and others figured out the virtual background. It's not perfect yet, but it solves a problem, because all of a sudden, when the pandemic hit, we're all TV stars now.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of us have choreographed, backgrounds.
Yeah.
I do this for a living. So, you don't want to see what's on either side of the frame. And we're all living like that, right?
Yeah.
But the virtual background solved that. Not perfectly yet, but it solved that problem for a lot of people.
And for Zoom, actually, like I got to see Eric present at Zoomtopia, and virtual backgrounds has kind of become part of the virtual culture. That when it crosses over from just solving a problem to, like, people have used their virtual backgrounds to emote and change and like have fun, and so some people have gone so far of creating culture around their virtual backgrounds. That's how important of a feature it has become for Zoom.
Yeah, I know there are conferences that I've been a part of.
Yes.
They were all virtual
Yes.
back in the days, when everything was virtual. Now it's, now I'm doing far more in person than I am virtual for actual events, not podcasts, but events.
Yeah.
But back when it was all virtual, there were several organizations, and maybe you did this with some of yours, or maybe you've been a part of it, where they would ship out, here's the virtual background for everybody to use. Because it's and so when you see like 20, 30, 40, 50 little, Hollywood Squares boxes around the street, and everybody's got kind of the same, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. And everybody's got that. It's like, oh, we're all part of the same club. Oh, we're all part of the same thing. So yeah, exactly. So so there are cool ways to use things like that. But I'm curious, John, you are absolutely the expert on virtual meetings and virtual experience. What are some of the other things that I haven't come up with? Like, what are some of the irritants for you, or the things where you think, oh, I wish somebody would solve this problem?
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, I have a few irritants, but I'm going to do a few fixes. Definitely the you're on mute definitely has a fix here. So hold on a second. Now, Bill, hopefully you gave me permission. Let me just check real quick. Okay, good. You did give me permission. So Bill, count to 20 now. Do me a favor. Just count to 20.
1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11.
Perfect.
12.
So what I've done here now is that Bill could actually be caught on mute, right? But I'm his producer, let's just say. So Bill accidentally comes up on stage. Here's Bill Stainton, right? He comes and talks on mute. I don't have to say anything to him. If he gave me permission, I can now click a button and unmute him and save him the embarrassment of it. So that's like one of the top. The other one I saw, Bill, that was really great is that somebody built a USB prop, and it was a big red button. Like, you remember it's the easy button?
Oh,
remember
the easy button. That's right.
Yeah.
From Target or from whoever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Home Depot, Office Depot, and so
Yeah. Office Depot, I think it was. Yeah.
yeah, and now they made one of those that was LED, and it actually listened and read and talked to Zoom and said, "Am I on mute or not?" And would turn it red and green.
That's awesome.
That is an awesome. That was like $30, but some boss loved it so much she bought like one for every single of her employees who were all on virtual, for the year, and every employee was like, "Thank you." So that's a cool innovation, right?
That's a cool innovation, and that's not that. Again, you didn't have to be, Thomas Alva Edison to come up with that. By the way, Thomas Alva Edison had a very average IQ. He did not have a genius level IQ, but he was a problem solver.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see now. Now, can I do irritants? Irritants are things like, okay, so even today, I got one of these. We were actually going through some irritants. And the challenge is I wonder if we can get a camera to solve this, but somebody showed up, right, presenting a keynote, right? Hey there, Bill, I'm presenting a keynote, and I'm really smart and important.
Right.
By the way, I'm going to talk for 45 minutes, Bill. Oh, yeah. there's those, and then I think the other
Right.
one. Let's see if I can do this one correctly, which is like I've got the camera wrong, but this is a great view for me, and I'm going to talk to you. So,
Right.
camera angles is one of those things, and again, you have the television experience by producing a show that just always said, I mean, as a joke, you could use one of these, but for the majority of times, that there are great camera angles that are going to make your people and you look great, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I just don't understand that one. That the mics too. Like we're 2023, we're 3 years into it, and when I get a mic and it's super tinny, right? The high pitch,
Yeah.
the echoey, uh,
Yeah. Like you
all
almost
of
expect to
the
see Radio Shack written on it. Back when
Radio
that was
Shack
a thing.
sometimes would be better, Bill, than what they have.
Actually, that's true.
Because even if for those who don't even know, right? We're talking about innovations that died. We're like Radio Shack and Blockbuster.
Yeah, right. Oh, here's another one. The fact that in order for me to appear like I'm making eye contact with all of you,
Yes.
I'm looking into a camera.
Yes.
I'm John. I'm seeing you out of my peripheral vision.
Oh.
If I were to look, if I were to look at you, it looks like I'm not making eye contact. So it's this weird thing. There is software, and I saw a demo of it like 2.5 years ago. Now, look, there are ways around that by using teleprompters and things like that. But not everybody's got that. But I saw software, a demo of software, and like 2.5 years ago was really good, where you could look like I could be looking at you on the screen, but the software would see my eyes and
Move them.
move them so it looks like I'm looking at the camera, and
Yes.
there were things they had to figure out, like you've got to blink and things like that. And if you all of a sudden do look away, it can't have your eyes staying over here. But they had figured out most of that. I mean, it was almost perfect, and I assumed that within a year, like Zoom would just have that technology built in. I don't know why they don't. I don't know why that hasn't become a thing.
I think it's
So-
not quite right yet, but here's the equivalent of this, right? Bill, have you seen this product? I've been tracking these
Yes,
people.
yes.
I actually bought 2 of these, and now the camera, unfortunately, can never rival the DSLR that Bill's, or whatever amazing camera that Bill's rocking. But this
Right.
is, I did buy 2 of these and tested them out for myself. It doesn't process my green screen well enough, but I have used it on other occasions, especially like teleprompting or like shooting video that I actually got to read something off of, because this camera puts that camera there. Oh, but I got to share, one of my recent guests, Bill, made this, right? Because you know how teleprompters work, right? They have a special kind of glass that will help reflect.
Yeah, it's just an angled glass that
Yeah.
reflects. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he bought a gigantic piece of glass and put an HD, big, like Costco-sized television underneath it, and now that's his gallery. So he can actually put his high-end camera behind this glass and now see his whole gallery, and his audience feels like he is talking directly to them.
Well, if I had more room in this office, unfortunately, I don't have enough room in front of me to do things like that. But I mean, I would love to. I mean, I've got 2 teleprompters, one small, one larger one. I would love to do that, but there's space constraints and things like that. But hey, we all have problems.
We all have problems. Okay. Well, Bill, when you talk about this too, what are some of the innovations that you've seen? I'm sure you've talked like to other people and yourself and other things like that. What have been some of the top innovations for you in virtual, and or what's the most engaging virtual meeting that you've seen in the last 3 years? Kind of because it's been like a TV. It's like been one 3-year long television show, right, Bill? I'm sure you're evaluating every day.
It has, and look, there are all kinds of innovations for those of us on this side of the camera, which is basically all of us. I'm using a switcher now. I don't have slides hooked up to it, but I could. But I can like do a nice fade to black and fade back up. If I had my other computer open, I could like instantly go to different slides and things like that. I could write on my iPad and show all that. I don't have that set up because that wasn't what we're going to be doing today. I've got a thing called a Stream Deck, which I'm sure you probably have, John, also. And I've got foot pedals for the Stream Deck. I use Ecamm when I'm doing some of my own things. So look, excuse me. So there are lots of those innovations, and those just kind of, excuse me, make it look a little. Okay, I'm going to mute myself here and get rid of this cough.
No problem. Go ahead, Bill. So he's, what's great about what Bill is talking about is like all of those innovations. What's funny around those, Bill, too, is that at least in my recent evaluation, there's very few people using that number of innovations, right? Maybe one or two, but there's still, so there's so much opportunity for those of you who are listening.
There's so much opportunity, but here's the thing. All those are nice things to play with and work with, and they can add to the experience. But what's really important, and John, you know this because you are absolutely the master of this, is engagement.
Yeah.
So you can have all the bells and whistles, but if you can't engage the audience, then those bells and whistles mean nothing. Just like, okay, I think you mentioned I'm a Hall of Fame keynote speaker. So yeah, I can get up on a stage in front of, anywhere from, 50 to 5,000 people and be pretty darn good. I mean, look, I've done it for a long time. I know what I'm doing. I'm engaging, I'm entertaining, all that kind of thing. I know it sounds like I'm patting myself on the back too much, but that's just the fact. And we've all seen speakers who are terrible. And it doesn't matter if their PowerPoint slides are really, really nice, but if they're just not a good speaker, then you're not going to have a good time. It's the same thing with virtual. You can have all the bells and whistles, you can have sound effects, you can have all kinds of cool things like that. But if you can't engage an audience, and some of that is just the delivery, being animated, all that sort of thing. But some of it also, like if I'm doing a workshop virtually, I've got to have the audience doing things that are fun for them, that they haven't seen before. It can't just be, how many of you like air? Type yes into the chat if you like air. How many of you, it can't, that's not audience engagement. Audience engagement is like saying, okay, I want to take a scrumpled up piece of paper and throw it into the camera. There we, for a reason or something, but all of a sudden they all take their scrumpled up paper and throw it. Now they're doing something.
They're doing something.
So that's the bit. And again, you, John, I mean, you've got all these techniques for engaging people, and engagement doesn't require the bells and whistles. You can use the bells and whistles to enhance the engagement, but you can be plenty engaging just sitting in front of a camera doing engaging things. And it all comes down to just like you were saying about innovation, the mindset. It's just here's what I want to say. Now, what can I incorporate into this to make it more engaging for them? What is something I can do? I mean, you're doing a great job. Yeah, exactly. Something like that. One of the things that I do sorry, no, I have to put this away. Yes, I actually have that because I do use that. But one of the things that I sometimes have people doing, if I'm doing a workshop on innovation and I want them to start them off by just kind of putting their minds into that creative space of making connections.
Yeah.
Is I say, okay, I'm gonna put a timer on for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, you can turn your cameras off if you want to, but I want you to go to your house, or because everybody's usually in their house, and just pick an object that you think is indicative of you. And then in 5 minutes, we're all going to come back. And the activity then is to take, two of those objects, two random objects, and connect them to create a product or a service or something. And that's just kind of an activity to get the mind thinking creatively. But the cool thing is, everybody wants to say, oh, what did Frank bring? What did Marsha bring? Oh, that's cool. And all of a sudden they're in. It's just like when you held up your little stuffed toy.
This is from my housemate, or the person who I'm staying with. Right.
Here's my little zebra, because I spoke for an organization called Zebra once.
Oh.
We all have these cool kinds of, but you bring it up, and that's engaging because you want to see what you're, because people are interested in people.
Well, here's the best part too, right? Because I'm going to help you. We're going to ask the magic question here in just a minute, Bill. Because of that, what it is one is that you had people do something, right? And here's the other point that's around there is that you end up too. There's a bonus that you learned something about that other person that helped you create a relationship.
Yes.
And so that's what I think a lot of people are missing in engagement. Like one of our most recent games that we created, the game is called Guess Who. And so we use Zoom's advanced feature where you can now answer a poll with any, amount of text. You don't have to choose one of the 10 options. Right. Then we bring all the choices up, and then we start going through a few of them and say, who's this, right? Who wrote this? And so people have to guess, and they guess wrong all the time. They're like, Bill Stainton said that. Bill's like, wasn't me, right? And so
Right.
you learn all this information, especially if you get through them all, and there was really a win for that. So, and here in your piece here too, by the way, Bill did not pay me anything to share any of this. I just think it's relevant. You asked this, you said, ask the magic question. And the question here is like, oops, so you take these two items and again, I've made my whole career on this too. Like I love using two things or using something in a way not intended. And in this case, your magic question, I believe, is how can I apply this to my situation? Tell me more about this magic question and how it could apply to anyone listening.
If everybody listening, if you just make this question a part of your life, like write it on a Post-it and put it on your computer screen, put it in your bathroom mirror, put it. How can I apply this to my situation? Here is how. There are any number of ways to use this. For example, if you've ever gone to a meeting that's boring, instead of just going like, "Oh, this is terrible. I shouldn't be here." Ask the question, "How? Okay, I'm here. How can I apply it to my situation?" Okay. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to leave for just a second, okay? I'm right back. I'm still here. You can hear me talking. Okay, but here, this.
Oh.
We've all seen this, right? Right? Heinz ketchup, right? By the way, this is a great innovation too, because prior to 2002, none of us had ever tasted ketchup because you can't get the ketchup out of the bottle. You and I both know that. We did this, we did this, we did this. You can't get the ketchup out of the bottle. You go to the store to buy ketchup now, you don't find this. It's been pre-upside downed in a big plastic thing.
That's
It's
right.
been pre-upside downed. But that also was somebody saying, hey, you know what? It took 126 years for somebody to say, this is really irritating. You know, how can I make it better? And they did it. But Heinz, this is probably going to be thrown out of focus, but you see Heinz 57. Can you see the Heinz 57 there?
Yes, 57,
Okay.
yes.
That's on every Heinz product. You go to buy any Heinz product, you're going to see Heinz 57 there. Do you know where that came from? I'll tell you where it came from. It happened in 1896 when the founder of the company, Henry John Heinz, H.J. Heinz, was in New York riding on their elevated train. New York used to have an elevated train, just like Chicago does now. And he happened to glance down and he saw a mom and pop shoe store with a sign in the window that said 21 styles of shoes. Now think about this, John. For most of us, if we saw that sign, it wouldn't even cross through our radar. It wouldn't make it through our radar unless we were either A, in the shoe business, or B, in the market for shoes. But other than that, it would not make it through the filter. You know, it would just become background noise. H.J. Heinz saw it and thought, that intrigues me. First of all, 21 styles of shoes. That's a lot of shoes, especially back in 1896. A lot of different styles. Plus, that's also that's a very specific number. I mean, they could have said 20, but 21 is like, wow. So he thought, how can I apply this to my situation? Again, connecting dots. He's not in the shoe business, and they're not in the food business. But he went back and he thought, 57, which was representative of the number of food products that Heinz sold at the time. They actually sold well over 60, but 57 is a more interesting number. It's a more specific number. So he started putting that on all the products, Heinz 57 varieties, but didn't explain it. All of a sudden, so people on now are looking like, what's this? What's the 57 varieties of what? I don't know. I don't know. Was it 57? Didn't matter. The point was everybody was talking about Heinz, not the competition, whoever the competition was. They were all talking about Heinz because of an idea he got from a mom and pop shoe store, because he thought to himself, how can I apply this to my situation? So the next time you read a headline or listen to a podcast or read a blog or have a conversation with somebody and something strikes you, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. Oh, look at what Apple's doing now. Look what Disney's doing. Look at what some cool little industry I've never even heard of is doing. Yeah. Instead of just having that just be like background, go like, how can I take that or part of that and apply it to what I'm doing? Maybe just like with a little twist or something. You know, well, I couldn't do it quite like that, but what if I did that? Yep. So look for what the cool kids are doing. The things that make you go, oh, that's an intriguing. Oh, that's cool. Oh, look at what they did in this village in Brazil. That's to solve this problem. That's really cool. Okay, if you thought it was cool, then there's something there. Okay, how could I do this? One of the things I did this once. I was facilitating a workshop, creativity strategic planning workshop for a group, and they had rented out a room in a casino, Tulalip Casino up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, great casino.
Yeah. And so what I had them do for one of the activities, I said, okay, I want you to pair up into groups of 3 or 2. It doesn't matter. Spend the next half hour just walking around the casino. And I want you to come up with 3 things that the casino is doing that you could apply to your world, which was not the world of casinos. And it would be easy to walk through and go like, "What? Nope, nothing. There's nothing," because that's a completely separate world. I didn't ask them, "Can you apply anything?" I said, "Come up with 3 things that you can." So they had to. Yes. And your brain will try and answer any question you put to it. So give it better questions. Give it, how can this apply to my situation? Not can this apply to my situation? Because if you ask, can this apply to my situation? Your brain could just say, no, time for lunch. Or you say, how can I apply this to my situation? And make it even harder. What are 3 ways I can apply this to my situation? And then let your brain go to work. And they came back and look, some of the things were stupid, which is fine. Some of the things were funny, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And a few of the things were like, oh my God, that could actually work.
That's
an idea that they wouldn't have had they not tried to make that connection. The only reason they tried to make that connection is because I forced them to. Well, we can do that ourselves by making that question, how can this apply to my situation, just a part of our normal day-to-day vocabulary. Man,
Here, I love
you will become an innovation machine.
I love you, Bill, for this part. One of the things that we do is to take this tip immediately into your next virtual meeting is stop doing all the expected things. Like, for instance, even times for breakouts or like a break. One, sometimes ask the audience for a break, and number 2 is saying, make up a random time. I'm going to give you, 4 minutes and 32 seconds for this break. And that marker of doing something different gets people to engage or pay attention because it's not standard. They got to sit around and think and going, why did he choose that? Right?
Exactly. and as soon as they mentally start asking questions, now they are engaged. They are involved.
Yeah, they're involved.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is that. Okay, I got 2 less dots left that we're going to try and connect. I got Bill Stainton today, and I've got 10 years from now, right? What is the 2 dots that are going to connect together? Like, and again, Bill, you're going back to in person, so you may not have the view, and I don't care. I just want to hear what you think, right? But where do you think virtual is going to be about a decade from now, Bill?
Well, first of all, it's still going to be here. Virtual's not going away. It's changing. And most of the meetings I'm doing, most of the in-person meetings I'm doing, everybody said, well, everything's going to be hybrid from now on. Well, that's not happening. It's happening in the larger meetings that have a budget. But right now, we're live streaming this in the end of February 2023. Right now, it's still prohibitively expensive, especially because hotels are charging so much for some of those things. It's prohibitively expensive for some of the smaller meetings. I think that's going to change somewhat, because I think organizations are going to realize that the in-person audience is just the tip of the spear, and they can charge a premium for in-person, but they've got this whole other audience that could be a part of it. So I think we are going to see more of that. I think it's going to become more commonplace. So I think there's that. I think that I don't know what the technology is going to be, but right now, John, you and I both know that unless you've got a presenter who really knows what he or she is doing, the virtual audience, if it's a hybrid meeting or hybrid conference where there's in person and virtual, the virtual audience almost invariably feels like a
second class
citizen. That's right. Because they're not really, they're just observing, but okay, turn to the person next to you and blah, blah, blah. Well, what about me? So I think we'll see new ways to engage, and some of that will be presenters learning more about this. Some of it will be technologies. Technologies will evolve because this is an issue. For pure virtual, I don't know how much better things like cameras and mics and that kind of thing are. That's just really more of a budgetary consideration, and how much you're doing this. If you're only going online, if you're only getting in front of camera like once every 2 weeks to talk to your retired mother, you don't need to have a whole setup for that. That's not necessary. But for those of us who do this more regularly, okay, we've already got some of that stuff. Look, it can always be better, of course. But as far as what else is going to happen, I don't know, John. I really don't know what it's going to look like. I mean, you're asking me to predict 10 years from now. 6 months ago, none of us had ever heard of Chat GPT.
Oh yeah.
And now it's all anybody's talking about. Who knows? Can you imagine where that's going to be a year from now? I mean, there are flaws with it right now, and even the guy, I forget his name. I just wrote about him in a LinkedIn post. The CEO of the company that makes ChatGPT says it's a horrible product, and he just said that 2 weeks ago. Because it's version. He says it's not even version 1.0. It's like version 0.7. Of course, it's going to be buggy, and it's got limitations. Like it can't tell what's fake news and what's real news and things like that. So but that stuff will be figured out. Because it'll have to be. That stuff will be figured out.
It's going to be figured out faster too, because they released it, because now they've got all these people interacting, and now all these things are happening that were unexpected, that they did not think that to do. People already are developing strategies about how to interact with it, and then being able to sell that. So it's created a secondary market already immediately.
I think one of the things that will happen is virtual meetings, like 100% virtual. It'll be almost as easy as just turning on your TV. Right now, people have to understand how to use Zoom. They have to know how to use a microphone. They have to, figure out the camera and things like that. I think we're going to see, just like computers in the early days didn't have microphones in them. They didn't have cameras in them in the early days. I mean, the first version of the iPhone, which I have right in back of me, is my iPhone 1.0. Which I kind of wish I'd never taken out of the case, because one that was still in the case just sold for $64,000.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah. But they did not have a rear-facing camera or a front-facing camera. They couldn't record video. They couldn't do it. It was version 1.0. It gets better. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see hardware design, more and more design for this. So I think it'll become, you turn on, your computer's on and say, it'll almost be like sending an email or something. Hey, I want to talk with John Shen. Boom, is he on? Yep. Okay, and it just happens. It's going to be as natural as making a phone call. I mean, do people still use the phone? I do, because I'm old.
But isn't kind of like the Jetsons, right? You've seen that cartoon floating around, Bill. Like the future really was the Jetsons. The Jetsons got it right.
The Jetsons got it right. They got it all right. So anyhow, that's what I'm saying. I know you study this far more than I do. So I'm sure you're seeing other trends that are going to happen. But I think one thing that we may see also is very realistic 3D avatars. We're starting to see that, and it's getting kind of scary now, but with these fakes and things. But I think that's going to start to be a thing also. If we're having a bad hair day or something like that, we'll just send our avatar and we'll be able to talk. Right now, avatars can kind of do an okay job. But my guess is that we can have something where, I could stop my video here, but I could turn my avatar on. And have my avatar be and I could be talking to you, and my avatar will be doing all this, and you will not be able to tell which is the avatar and which is me. I'm guessing that's there we go.
That's right.
Which one is that? Is that you, John, or is that?
That's me. No, it's based on me. That's the best part. So I am talking. You can see, like, I can blink my eyes and turn my head a little bit, and it is responding to me. So it is not automated, but it is like these things are what's coming, right, Bill?
Yeah, but that looks, like a cartoon. It's cool. It's cute, much like yourself. But within, 3, 5, certainly 10. 10 years. Who knows what the world's going to look like in 10 years? But that will be indistinguishable from you. Nobody will be able to tell that it's not actually you.
That's right, Bill. All right, if you could sum that, if you wanted people to remember just one sentence from this entire interview, I know, Bill, this will be a tough one. What's the one sentence you would like to leave people with today?
Yeah, it's actually not tough at all. The one sentence is we are all the gifted few, and that means you are creative. So this whole I'm not creative bull. You are creative. You are an innovator. It's all a mindset. It's believing that you are. And again, just looking for like, how can I make this better? And how can I apply this to my situation? Just start doing those things. And you're going to see like, oh, this is it. Oh, I can do this. I thought innovation was some complex, complicated. No, I can do this. So again, that's the thing. You are an innovator right now.
Oh, excellent. And you're an innovator too. Go to BillStainton.com, and you can actually go to BillStainton.com/Chen and got that free gift that Bill left you. Hey, thank you so much, Bill, for your time today.
Thanks, John. This is a blast.
Outstanding. Hey, this is John Chen. This is the real John Chen behind an AI avatar. But I just want to say thank you that you just got a chance here to listen to the one and only 29 Emmy Bill Stainton right here near Seattle, Washington. Think about that. You are the innovation. Think about if you're at the end of this interview, what's one thing that you can do to innovate? Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be small. It can even be a complete failure, but that's one of the things that we want you to do and make somehow this year better. We just want to say thanks, and we'll hope to see you next time.